Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I'm your host, as always. I got none. I'm Chad Poor. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, we're having a show today.
Yeah, man. Pre-show, this show, probably have a post show talking about all the madness
Oh,
as we do.
yes, because I actually had a mock-up of our Baywatch logo. Only I should have checked to see if the name was available, so I have to change the name. But I'll show you. I'll show you what I came up with.
Like it knows to the people, the name isn't Oceanic. We don't like to rock that much.
Oh, it might be.
God damn it.
The problem is the name has already been taken by a defunct Baywatch podcast from like 6 years ago. So we will not be calling it the Baywatchin' podcast. Although there are still some out there that I'm thinking like Babe Watching, because this show is nothing but babes. Let's be honest. Even the dudes are babes. Or Baywatching Nights podcast. Because it's a play off the fact that Baywatch tried to have a more serious night version of the show. We won't be watching Baywatch Nights. I made that mistake once. And only once. So, that's the general look of what we're going for. What do you think of it? Are the pastel colors too much for you?
Pastel, we're using pastel colors. No, I like it. I dig it. I can see the fact. This show only reinforces why I've always been and will remain to my deathbed a boob man. But
Boobs are
um,
great.
and with everything that's happening in this doggone pop culture of over asses, it's like just normal booties matter.
Normal booties' lives matter.
But no, I guess we can't take the wild and switch it to the E because I mean we know why we're there. Like I like David Hasselhoff, but I don't like David Hasselhoff.
Yeah. No, you're fine, Dave. Like, you can exist, but, like, we ain't here for you, kid.
Yeah, so we can't say Babe watching BAE or Babe watching because that'll be, I guess, too indulgent. Um,
I'm trying to make it have its own identity, so.
yeah, and the fact that we can't take the name of a defunct show.
I mean, we could. It's not like they're around to put up a fight.
Hilarious. Like, it's like your domain is off of that. It went back on the market.
We'll figure out a name, but
Yeah,
that's the general idea of the look.
but I like it. I like the look. Like I said, you can tell that's man. They had some hotness come through this show because obviously you got the two at the top, the icons, Hoff and Pam, and yeah, man, I dig it.
Like, you had Pam. You had, I think Carmen Electra was on there for a while. I forget who the brunette was with Pam. Like, if I saw her name, I would recognize her.
It's weird because like that show like originated what in the 80s.
Early 90s, maybe late 80s, like 89, either 89 or 90.
Because I feel like before they started doing the Law and Order, which was the thing where it's like every actor got their start. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
hot ones through Baywatch.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like every top, it was 89 it started.
yeah,
Every top sexy model of the mid 90s started on Baywatch
yep.
or reached her peak on Baywatch. Erica Elonic, not Yasmin Bleeth, that's who it is. Yasmin
I'm
Bleeth.
trying to think, did we ever get any? Because you that word specifically models. Did we ever get any like major actresses of the day that came through Baywatch? Because I feel like did we get a young Rosario Dawson and then she turned into who she is? Like, no, I don't think so.
Maybe in like the cameo guest of the week role, but not in the Babe role, if you will.
And maybe the furthest extent of it might be like they went from this and now they're consistently doing the Lifetime or Hallmark movies.
Yeah, most of these are probably on the tail end of doing the Hallmark run.
Yeah,
Because most of these are probably pushing 60 by now.
yeah.
Yasmin Bleeth is 54.
So now they're the mom of the yeah,
Yeah, now they're the grandmother or the early grandmother.
yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be like in the main cast. There's not going to be any surprises like what's his name? He was in. Remember the Titans? He got replaced by Petey as a linebacker. What's his name?
Oh, Ron got.
Yeah, there's not gonna be any Ryan Gosling on Goosebumps in this show, but there might be like, all right, there's one Jason Momoa, but he was on the spinoff,
Okay.
so I don't think that counts. At least we know that they had one good male actor.
The guy that was on the spinoff of Baywatch evolved into Aquaman.
Or was Aquaman just a lifeguard before he got famous? Just saying.
That's a good short to do before that sequel comes out, because that press tour is going to be hilarious.
Marcus, I am telling you, this show is wild. There's literally an episode where David Hasselhoff meets a woman, knows her for all of 6 minutes. She gets murdered, and then he has an emotional breakdown because he thought he could spend the rest of his life with her. This show is wild. I cannot wait to go through it.
He always had some very believable, like as believable as some of his thrusts were. Then they do an episode just like that, and it's like Buchanan, what the freak is wrong with you? And then something to come up with his son, and then he'd have to be like normal again.
Oh God, oh God, this is gonna be the dumbest show ever. Oh, I can't wait. Like someone becomes a lifeguard because they're trying to escape their abusive ex-boyfriend, and ends up kind of cutting their way through a competition. And they're like, "You won! You're a lifeguard." I'm just like, this show is wild. Yes. Speaking of wild, let's talk about Jordynne Grace. So she made headlines this week for all the wrong reasons, and so basically she tweeted out that Chris Benoit, she's like, "This is gonna be the coldest take I ever do on Twitter." And she basically said that Chris Benoit wasn't a good worker or couldn't hang with the guys of this generation, and oh yeah, he should burn in hell. Now, here's the thing. I severely disagree with her statement on his talent level. He not only could hang in this, he'd be the best because he was. But here's the thing. I used to be a huge Benoit fan. I mean, like, if you think my love of Sting and my stupid allowance is like, I don't care if he has a broken neck and is 63, put all the belts on him. You think that's bad? Benoit was close. He was close. For like 7, 8, 9 years, like that dude and Sting were like, if I could start a promotion, it'd be those two dudes. And I was so I remember this like fucking vividly. We went to this restaurant bar place called Fox and the Hound. It no longer exists. And we were there, and we sat down. I only went because I knew Benoit was going to win the ECW title, and I was watching it, and then he never came out, and Johnny Nitro came out, and I'm like, well, what's going on? And like, apparently, like the first rumors was like he had called off and he wasn't going to be at the show, and then like Monday morning, oh my God, everything just went sideways, and then by Friday, that Monday night. For Raw, we had found out that it wasn't because at first we heard it was a family emergency, and then there was a suspicion that somebody had died, and then there were the revelation that his family had been murdered, and everyone's like, "This is fucked up." And then like the real truth came out, and for like a good 4 or 5 months, I had a hard time kind of wrapping my head around this. And keep in mind, I'm 20. Like I am not emotionally mature at that point. So I was having a hard time grappling with it, but now I'm sitting here 35 fucking 8, oh my God. Like, I'm about to have a quarter life crisis, my friend. I cannot be this old. But at this point, I no longer have that inability to accept that this bastard was a bastard. And I know a lot of people go like CTE and all that, but one of the things I did like right afterwards, maybe like 2010, 2011, I started deep diving on Benoit. And there are so many stories of abuse that he committed long before 2007 that I was just like, he was never a good person. And like, these were always things that kind of got ignored. Like the way he treated Miz, the way he treated Matt Striker, the way he treated wrestlers. Like, granted, Justin Roberts might be a creepo, but you still don't strand someone in a foreign country, which is what Benoit did. He stole, who was it? Justin Roberts' passport when they were in Europe. And like the dude had to go to like the embassy to get home. Like that's fucked up. You can't just like fucking bang the drum of CTE, man. Like that's like saying, well, I was drunk. It's not a fucking excuse. You know how many people have CTE currently? Pretty much like 90% of the NFL. And you don't hear all these guys doing all this shit, so I don't want to hear it. Like it's not an excuse to me. So like when I had Jericho or Chavo fucking getting on Jordynne Grace about like, well, he had CTE and like fuck off. I don't care. I'm very much Paul Heyman with that regard. Like I don't give a fuck about the CTE. Like he did something, CTE or not, he did it.
What I mean, Jericho and who else came to his defense?
Chavo. And I shouldn't say came to his defense. Jordynne had made a passing remark in her apology about talking to Jericho and Chavo. And, like, I get why they would have an issue with it because they were very good friends with Chris. But, like, also, like, both can fuck off. And, like, David Benoit is a different beast entirely because I don't know how you can ever grapple with the fact that your father murdered your brother. Like, anything David Benoit wants to say, I'm just going to let him say it. Because that's a pain you can't understand.
He's also a spitting image.
Fucking A, man.
And he wants to be in wrestling.
And, like, he should. And I don't, like, on one hand, it's like, it's your name. You can do what the fuck you want with it. But on the other hand, it's like, bad name brand, man.
Your hero is enemy number one, persona non grata in the whole grand scheme of things. And it's sad, but it's an unfortunate truth. And yeah, it's just weird. Like I said, when you was talking before the show, when I said she wasn't wrong, I was referring to the go to hell part.
Right, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, but it's just weird that still the concept of his performance is ever in the play. Like I said, in terms of not wanting to give him a compliment, but ultimately it's the understood variable. We know how good he was. Mm-hmm. Like he kind of reminds me of like what Walter is now, but littler.
Yeah. Only not so many chest stops, slaps. One of those is right.
Like Walter has like chest encaving, heart stopping chops. Benoit had like legitimate like knife edge. When you talk about knife edge chops, his
form was
like
perfect.
Walter was an imprint. Like Walsh would literally cut you. So, but he just had a different gear, man. Like he was as complete, like stacked from an arsenal perspective in terms of his moveset as he was body wise, regardless of how unnatural or natural that whatever that happy medium was. But
and the thing is, like specifically with any old wrestler like Benoit, and I don't mean personality wise, Dynamite Kid, Bob Backlund, Shawn Michaels, any ring based kind of commander, general, whatever you want to call them, will adapt to any generations. Like,
yeah,
I never want to hear anyone say, "Well, Bruno Sammartino couldn't work in this generation." Yeah, he fucking could. Don't be adult.
Like, look, you're a hero. I mean, because speaking of hero, like that's another thing about the tragedy of David Benoit is that that's his hero.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did that situation, I don't know if it was the Dark Side of the Ring or something else I was watching, but he was, very much still talking in adoration of his pop because I mean and ultimately how could he not? That's the side he knew.
Mm-hmm. And I was about to say like that's a situation where there was two people. There was Chris Benoit the villain and Chris Benoit the father. And like I'm right there with you. Like when she said go to hell, like or he can burn in hell, whatever. Like I'm right there with her. Like, I don't give a shit about the diagnosis or the alleged, CTE or how bad it's because like just because your brain doesn't look good doesn't mean it doesn't function good. And we don't know what he was feeling and thinking, and more so when you think about Benoit, historically there's been allegations of abuse against him dating back 20 years, as well as allegations done to him dating back 20 years. So like there's a lot going on that people never talk about. And I feel like because Jericho is like so beloved by so many in wrestling that he gets to set the narrative, and it's a false narrative. Because if Jericho's being honest, Benoit was never really a nice guy. And historically, there's always been examples of his behavior being abusive. Now, there's also examples of him, like, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Maria or Victoria. They were on the road, and I want to say it was like 2003, 2004, and the hotel was booked that they were at. And Benoit was like, take my room. Because, like, these two girls were going to sleep in the car. He's like, no, absolutely not. Take my room. and he gave up his room to them. So like there are always stories of him doing nice things, but there's always stories of him doing bad things. And you know, if that was like if his abuse of like Matt Stryker and Justin Roberts and Miz was like the worst of it, you could argue he's a man of two sides. You know, you have to accept people with their faults and flaws and yada yada yada. But once you kill your own kid and kill your own wife, like I don't want to fucking hear it, man. A child died that day.
Jericho is a sticky wicket because he's particularly with his separating like him like outside of the ring, like his viewpoints and statements and some of the stuff over the last few years have kind of like washed away a lot of that
all-encompassing kind of narrative shifter.
Yeah, the rose-colored glasses of it all with him. You kind of just appreciate what he is in wrestling, and kind of specifically when you take into effect that I think maybe was his wife at the insurrection of it all, maybe.
She was outside, allegedly.
And just a lot of his viewpoints, and obviously that comes from an experience that he just doesn't have. But ultimately, sometimes you just need to shut up, and he doesn't always do that. I think when he should.
I mean, prime example, he tried to fight Brock Lesnar over a planned spot.
Yeah, I don't.
Which would have been hilarious.
Fair, even as stupid as both of these instances were, you gotta give him kudos for not backing down from anybody. Like when you get into it with Goldberg and Lesnar, you not a punk.
I mean, he got some big balls, but that just means he's an easier target.
Yeah, it's yeah, really, and he's not the yeah, he ain't exactly Wardlow. So,
no.
But yeah, it's weird. Like he's coming from a place as a friend, and I get it, but still, like you know what it is. And it's weird because I don't want to get Chavo past either, but there's this thing that I kind of almost have a level of empathy for him for because the degrees of separation in terms of where he stood at with both of those guys, not only before death, but when those deaths occurred. Like he's the guy that found Eddie, and he may well be the guy that got the last text from Benoit.
Yeah, I think he did. So like he's got like
yeah. So for him, I kind of give him a pass because it's like that's a heavy load to carry. Like I would imagine. I wouldn't be surprised if he had to go to therapy for both instances respectfully, because it's like that's a lot, to carry.
So I don't have a problem with what Jordynne. See, my whole context has always been just be honest, and we don't need to denigrate talents to highlight how terrible they are. One of the people that I just dislike more than anything, and Cleveland Browns, man, just Deshaun Watson, Jim Brown, just all the hits, but like. Even though I think Deshaun Watson and Jim Brown are bad people, I'm not going to sit here and say they weren't great players. I'm not going to destroy my own integrity on that one. Like, yeah, they're great.
Come on.
Jim Brown may be the greatest running back of all time. It doesn't excuse their bad behavior, though.
Yeah,
and, like,
come on, man.
There's a band that I used to love. Like, I got, like, 20 albums that I still almost listen to regularly. And I update it, like, obviously. But, like... There are a few that I think were all-time classics, and one of them was Lost Prophets, and they did the Jeff Hardy Rooftop song. And great, like they had, I don't remember what the album was called, because like once I get the album, I don't know any of the goddamn names or anything. And if you've ever listened to the show, you know I forget names all the time. But they had the album where Last Train Home was the big hit off the album, and it was a great album. I listened to this damn thing ad nauseum. Whenever I was working out, whenever I was doing, work in the yard, like that, Yellow Cards, Ocean Avenue, Process of Belief by Bad Religion, like those were always the albums I would rotate through. But then I found out that the lead singer is a genuine, fucking disgusting ass pedophile. And I don't mean like he was into 15-year-olds, because that's not what a pedophile is. A pedophile is prepubescent. And like he was into tender age minors, which means like younger than 3. And I was like, that dude, like, I will never listen to another goddamn song of his again. Like, period, end of discussion. And there are a lot of people who make excuses for bad behavior. And they tried to go, well, like Chris Brown or R. Kelly, that people still try to justify, like, oh, I can separate the artist and the art. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, look, we the concept of being human is rooted in flaw. And then, we all are, complex and very deeply layered beings, but in this celebrity culture we have we talked about this before, how people so much, so like to deify so much of these people because of, their affluence and access and what all that, or they see them do something so good that they wish they could do. It turns them into this untouchable thing until they get grounded or knocked off the proverbial high horse.
It's
Like
also, I
just
think,
look at,
nostalgia. Like that they
oh
were
yeah,
my childhood growing up.
yeah, yeah, and that part of them that won't let just won't allow them to disassociate from it, because it's like I have to hold on to all these good feelings, because when
Hmm.
you grow up, you become an adult, and you're looking at the world now, it's like it's so much to not feel good about, and I get it, but you also have to recognize reality. So, like a perfect example of that, somebody like Michael Vick,
Yeah.
they redefined the
Michael
QB
Vick
position.
might
Yeah,
be the best example of how you can come back from it. Him and Mike Tyson, because they
yeah,
both did something terrible, but
yeah,
they both put in the
absolutely.
work. But both men went to jail. Both men sought counseling. Tyson started to medicate himself so he wasn't so angry all the time. Vic, like, had a culture shock. Like he even said, like, I thought that was normal. And like they both made strides to improve and fix their lives.
Yeah,
But there aren't always things you can fix like that. Like Vic and Tyson could.
yeah,
But Benoit, like, even if he was alive today, like, how could you ever look at that dude again? I don't know, Marcus.
yeah.
So,
It's just those weird things, but it's weird to me, like, because Jordan is a very smart individual.
mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just weird to me, like, how did that ever like come up to like feel the need to say he couldn't hang with today's talent? Like you said, if you were trying to knock him,
Just like he
like,
couldn't cut a promo because he
like, yeah,
couldn't. He was
it's
terrible.
right there. Don't yeah, he couldn't cut a promo. He kind of, the rabbit rover ring thing was apt to, kind of came off zany a lot of times on screen. You talk about, you looking at stuff on hindsight. He didn't always, and as effective as it was, that headbutt didn't help. I feel like that like the equivalent to Angle's moonsault, except he always hit it, which
Mm-hmm.
was not that wasn't isn't necessarily helpful in it either way if he's hitting it or missing it, because it's all affecting the head. So yeah, I just don't feel like the dude, all this is a murder suicide. Like, if you needed to find fault, it's almost like she didn't want to like outright like reference what he did. Though she tried to knock him as a talent thing, and then obviously that triggered, you know, the wrestling internet community. So,
So she went on to apologize for that. She said, "Last week I made an irresponsible and unnecessary tweet. I would
yeah.
just say it was infactual. I don't think it was irresponsible or unnecessary, just infactual. Tell him to burn in hell all you want, because God bless you, Jordan. I agree. Regardless of how my personal emotions influence my opinion, I should have recognized the impact my words have had on friends and family close to the situation. I was completely thoughtless in that regard. Since reflecting this past week, I reached out privately to friends and family that I angered or hurt. Among those was Chris Benoit, Chavo Guerrero, or Chris Jericho, who are supporting me in the decision to partner and fundraise with the Concussion Legacy Foundation, formerly the Sports Legacy Institute. I believe this is the Chris Nowinski Institute that he works with. I have pledged $5,000 with an overall campaign goal of $20,000. I am acutely aware that the damage has been done. I would never intentionally add onto the suffering of those already dealing with a traumatic event. And I am sorry for my delicate topic. This is my way of paying it. This is my way of attempting to squeeze something positive out of the negative situation I created. Thank you in advance for anyone who donates. Signed, Patricia. So that's it. We are done with this story. No more. Oh, God damn it. So, in talking about this entire story, the one thing that people always forget about is that there were victims. We never talk about this, but there are victims in the story. And we know about the son, but the one that never ever gets talked about is Nancy Elizabeth Benoit, a.k.a. Nancy Sullivan, a.k.a. Nancy, and I'm going to butcher this, and I don't mean to, but it's going to happen. Toffaloni? She's definitely Italian. She's hard Italian with that name. And her sister, Sandra Toffaloni, decided that, you really can't do a half apology. So she tweeted out, "It's weird. I didn't hear my phone ring. I really thought that the work that I've been putting in for the 15 years trying to keep and elevate my sister's legacy hadn't gone unnoticed. Guess my family is an afterthought. Again, I don't even know where to fucking start." And again, this is kind of one of those things where Chris Jericho and Chavo Guerrero have yet again found a way to make the situation about them. And it kind of pisses me off because, like, listen, he's your friend. I get that. But, bitch, someone's family was robbed of a fucking person because of your friend. Fuck your feelings. And if Chavo and Chris Jericho were in my face, I would spit it in absolute, just profound, over enthusiasm. Fuck your feelings, guys. Because this woman's sister was murdered by your friend. Fuck your friend. Fuck him.
Did they
burn in hell.
did they reply to her?
No, well, Jordynne did, which is why we're continuing on. Jordynne had a brief tweet that said, "Sandra, I just followed you to hopefully be able to message privately." Now, I'm not on the Jordynne Grace is a bitch bandwagon on this one. I think she's... I don't like that she had to make something up to try to slam the dude, like by saying that, he wouldn't have been able to hang in this generation. It is unnecessary. But her stating, "May he burn in hell, amen," I fully support. I am 100% on that bandwagon. And it's one of those things where it's like, this isn't Junior Seau. Junior Seau was having a lot of issues with CTE, and he shot himself because he couldn't handle it anymore. And he knew that something was wrong with him. So he shot himself in the chest so that people could, study his brain to help someone avoid the fate he was in. Junior Seau is beloved by everyone. Like, he is one of those guys that historically has always been just the good dude. Chris Benoit hasn't always been the good dude. Chris Benoit has many stories that paint him as a very bad dude. So, like, this is not a situation where, like, we can rehab Chris Benoit's legacy, because at the end of the day, he still murdered his own wife and his own child. And then killed himself like a coward. So no, I am not going to be on the rehab Benoit bandwagon that Jericho and Chavo are apparently hoping to, fulfill.
Yeah, we get it. It's your friend, but it's always.
I'm beating up my own friends for doing less than what Chris Benoit did. Like, just because they're his friend, like, that doesn't mean you got to cop to him. That doesn't mean you got to fucking stand for him.
I feel the same way about the two of them responding to Grace, the same way I feel about, like, the impulse to tweet it. Like, what was the need here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the impulse need here? And with Jericho and what was the need for that initial tweet? Like, did that just fall on your mind? You feel like you had to get that off? Okay, like, I feel like the app definitely needs a thing, and I don't know if it does, but like you got to go through like 2 different tiers of, are you sure you want to tweet this? Confirm you want to tweet this, so people can be like, what the freak are you trying to say? Oh, maybe this is stupid. Yeah, maybe it is. But with Jericho and what you got, you don't. His talent was what it was. You don't need to defend a dead guy. You certainly don't need to defend a very willfully defamed dead man, deservingly so defamed dead man. Your friend, but you really don't have a dog in this fight. And you really don't have a dog, and nobody has a dog in this fight, specifically the stupid-ass fans that use this situation to rehash the Hall of Fame conversation. All of you dragon assholes can sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, like, the only person that should have had something to say, purely uncontested, is that woman's sister.
And I would say David Benoit as well.
Yeah.
Because he lost a brother.
If he so felt the need to, if he so felt he wanted to chime in. Because that's ultimately what comes down to. Like, nobody ever brings up the fact that the kid and his mom, are no longer here. Like, the conversation about the Hall of Fame is irrelevant. There's no moral barometer to even get in that Hall of Fame now, which is sad, because they almost have a point. Because, like, there was a and I can't knock her, it's her dad, but there was a reference made to Snooker in a rap song recently, and like there was like, I didn't think people knew the reference because I'm a wrestling fan, but he's like an older wrestler, and then Tamina was like, I got it, and it's like I like, you want to be like, no, but it's like, it's his daughter. What are you gonna do about that, right? But we know what it is. We know what it is. We know what it is with a lot of guys that are in that Hall of Fame. There's no real moral parameter, so it's not like he couldn't go in, but it's a PR thing. Like they literally can't do it.
No.
For as long as they tried to keep China out, you know what I'm saying? They literally can't do it with him. But that don't. I 100% believe they would if they could, even with the situation. But this is just dumb all around, man. Like the fact that I hate the fact that this situation ultimately triggered her because she has been putting in that work behind the scenes. And I also wonder, and I definitely want to get your point on this. I wonder if Jericho and Chavo wouldn't potentially have pressed Grace behind the scenes, would she have felt the need to do the I'm gonna donate to the such and such and such and such. I'm like, she wasn't on the verge of getting canceled. Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? So it felt like they almost pressed her to be like, no, it was all CTE. That's all it was. He didn't heal. It was all a head thing. You need to donate to make it right.
Part of me doesn't want to believe that's what happened, but also, Scott D'Amore is real close with Chris Jericho, and regardless of what everyone says, because of how close D'Amore and Jericho were, there were conversations that when Jericho was a free agent in, 2016, 2017, whatever it was?
About coming to Impact, yeah.
Yeah, he was going to come to Impact. He was going to sign a 1-year deal for 4 or 6 matches for like $1.5 million or something like that because of D'Amore. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, it might be a situation where they were talking and maybe Gail's like, Jordan, listen, like, fucking people are pissed. Like, best thing to do is just fucking mea culpa. Like, maybe this was like genuine, sincere advice from somebody she respects. Like, because Gail and Benoit don't really have any kind of connections that I would imagine, like Chavo and Benoit did, right? So, like, if Gail or whoever, like, maybe it was Jimmy Jacobs or whoever's, like, maybe just apologize so we can be done with this shit. Maybe that's all it was. But maybe Jericho did kind of apply some pressure. I don't know. And if he did, which I wouldn't be surprised if he tried, truthfully. I think he would be that kind of creep guy to try to do that.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what it was.
Because the only reason why I bring that up, because to your point, the CTE, immediately throwing out the CTE thing is an easy out.
Mm-hmm. It's a great excuse.
To try to come to the defense of obviously the indefensible. Because the way the energy came off in too, which is hard. That's why texts and tweets, are kind of bad because it doesn't apply context. Particularly like what was coming off unless somebody put something in all caps, because it doesn't feel like that was ever a thought in her mind. But it does, like you said, it kind of feel like somebody might have came to it, because it's one of those situations that we've seen people get into it or step in it when it comes to the queer community, and the quickest thing that's almost opposite of bringing up the CTE thing is the donation thing. Mm-hmm. Like, with the queer community, I'm gonna donate to the Young Queer College Fund, such and such and such and such, and it's a quick, like, pouring the water on the fire real quick. A lot of times, and that's not me trying to like take away from the potential genuine act of it, but a lot of times it's the quickest hush thing for the mob.
It is, and it's a great way to kind of distill the anger. And Jordynne Grace is one of those quote unquote woke wrestlers. Like, she knows that when she kind of steps into it, she has to almost overcorrect, and that's what this feels like, an overcorrection. And like, the funny thing is, like, at the end of the day, people are mad at her because she doesn't like a murderer. Like, hot god, and I've questioned Jordynne Grace. In fact, I've had disagreements with the woman personally. I am not looking for a reason to say hate this chick. So, like, you have to understand that when I'm sitting and going, I do not know what she said that was wrong. Understand, I am not trying to be this woman's friend. I'm not trying to denigrate her. I just genuinely do not know what you people fucking want. She said the right thing. A bad dude should burn in hell. Well, but he had CTE. How many guys have CTE right now who haven't murdered their children? Don't fucking hit me with that. Like, that's like, well, she was drunk. Who was the Las Vegas Raider player? He killed a woman last summer or last fall. because he was driving while intoxicated. I don't want to fucking hear he was drunk. Like, goddamn, if you knew that Chris Benoit had mental issues, if you were worried about his mental well-being, why the fuck didn't you do something? I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how many, because wrestling community fan base is weird, man.
They're stupid, Marcus. I'm not playing games with these people.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's exactly what they call it. Because from Grace to these idiots about this Hall of Fame garbage, and even if it's not the Hall of Fame stuff, it's the people that just like about just the overreaction about the wrestling thing. For all of you, from Grace to these idiots, for lack of better phrasing, is this ready to heal any of y'all want to down about this guy?
Really, if it's about Chris Benoit, you should not be wanting to die now.
Like, this ready to heal any of you want to down? Because I'm like, what would the conversation to be if we was having different, if situations would have turned out differently with Jimmy Uso or Jeff Hardy with these DUI events? You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, they both had CTE too.
Like, it's a real great way to kind of absolve people of responsibility. But that seems to be what society wants to do. Oh, no, he was provoked. Or she didn't do anything wrong that he didn't already do. And my favorite is the whole Deshaun Watson thing. Well, he assaulted a bunch of women, but the New England Patriots owner paid a woman to jerk him off. So that's the same thing. No, fucking stop trying to find excuses. It's okay to just admit that somebody's a bad person. You don't need to live in your feelings. You can just be like, you know what? If the NFL is filled with terrible people, I'm going to stop watching. If pro wrestling is filled with terrible people, I'm just going to stop watching. You can make those decisions. You don't need to keep making up goddamn excuses for bad people and the bad things they do. So, fuck Chris Benoit. And fuck anyone who defends him. And fuck control your narrative.
Speaking of alternate,
right? Speaking of, so Donald Trump's favorite wrestling narrative is hitting the road for a 24-date tour, and they're hitting all the stops in Los Angeles and Portland and Seattle and New England and Vermont and Maine. Oh wait, no, they're not. Those are blue states. They're hitting Texas and Georgia and Carolina and Virginia and Maryland and New York and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, back to Florida. Oh, wait, they're hitting Wisconsin and Illinois. Ooh. Missouri and Iowa. So who's going on tour? I can't read some of these names because the photo is not great. It's not an all-white card, so I'm kind of surprised by that. It says Project X. Is that his name? And then there's Rising Sun Weston Blake. This is not quality stuff here, guys. Psycho Boy Fodder. Flip Gordon. Oh goddamn. EC3 Adam Shear. Those are just some of the names that are going to be on the show. Oh, here we go. The CYN Live is headlined by the founders EC3 and the Titan Adam Shear. And will feature appearances from established stars like Flip Gordon, Weston Blake, Austin Aries, Dirty Dango, Killer Cross, and a list that will grow by the week. CYN's true intention is to build stars of tomorrow like Dante Smiley, Fodder, KK, Mecca. These aren't just random words. I'm not having a stroke. These are the wrestlers' names. So yeah, it's gonna be a thing, man. I could give a shit. Like I said before, no one has killed their legitimacy in wrestling faster than EC3. And it feels like even though Adam Shear's 6'10", and it could fucking double as the Mountain in a Game of Thrones remake, the dude has no fucking attraction as an independent draw. That dude was all WWE hype. Because I don't know anyone who's who I really want to see on the indies? The Titan Adam Shear. No one. I've heard no one talk about that.
Also, I wonder, and I also get your take on it. I wonder, just how much are people over the whole giant thing of it all? Because it's such an easy thing, and we did Braun Strowman shoved down our throats. We all remember Khali, the whole situation in AEW when that new guy showed up to beat up Samoa Joe. Um, I think a lot of people just kind of over the Giants over it all. It's like it's not appealing anymore. Specifically when you got guys built like Brian Cage that can move like an X Division performer. Or guys even, Donovan Dijakovic and others guys like Keith Lee that are basically doing all this stuff. Like you just gonna be big and tall to be big and tall now.
You
So
know, and like that's the thing. He's a very impressive specimen to look at, but I can't say anything about him as a worker. Like who the fuck's Adam Shearer? Like he's not that good of a talent, and like the only reason people even know about him is because of the fact that he was, in the WWE, and the WWE hype machine was able to find a way to make him look stronger than he was.
that takes me to another name a lot of people may have forgotten about. Remember that Mason Ryan guy?
Oh yeah, I do. You mean British Batista?
Pretty sure. Da 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 da. Oi.
Oi, Homelander.
What's your,
Oh
Before you
god.
go out down the curtain, what's your finisher's name? Scorched Earth.
Dude, that fucking series is so twisted. Marcus, are you gonna go see Control Your Narrative?
No, no, but somebody who I think could use some controlling of their narrative, maybe a certain Canadian who was getting compared to somebody from Control Your Narrative. Good old Hart family.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll get to her. She's further down the run sheet.
I got you.
She's further down the run sheet. I appreciate you trying to do a segue. I do. I like the attempt. But Marty Scurll's up next. That's a narrative that they're definitely trying to control. There you go. That's how it's done. One day, my young Padawan. One day.
Will earn my lightsaber.
So Canada is the place to be. Apparently, it was where they were hiding Speedball for 5 years after he illegally entered the country, and now they're trying to hide Marty Scurll. Now, granted, like Speedball trying to enter the country illegally, I'm not a fan of illegal immigration, but also like I'm also like, okay, like give him a doggy bag, send him back over the line, and be like, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Like this. It doesn't need to be such a thing. Like 5-year ban? What are we doing? Maybe a year. Like, all right, a year ban. Then you can reapply. And that's what Speedball did. Only 5 years later, because 5 years is fucking ridiculous. But like Marty Scurll going to Canada? What the fuck? I don't think Marty knows the age of consent's a little bit higher in Canada.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So Scurll, who was accused of, and let me be clear, Scurll admitted to it. He admitted to having a sexual encounter with a 16-year-old girl at an IPW UK event in 2015 in the bar bathroom. I'm sorry, but nothing about that sentence says I deserve to have a career. If you are having sex in a bar bathroom with someone you know to be younger than you are, and you didn't check an ID, and you took her at her word, and you had sex in a public bathroom, I don't give a shit if the assault portion of the allegation is wrong. I am all about that personal responsibility. You should not be having sex in a public bathroom. I do not care how much Pornhub you watch. That is disgusting. That is amoral. That is fucked up. And Marty Scurll was like, what, 30 at the time? Maybe like 29? Like, he is too old to be acting like a fool. If this is like two 16-year-olds humping in a bathroom, I'm not okay with it, but I understand the stupidity. Like, I can look at these two dumbasses and be like, you two are dumbasses. But Marty Scurll's too old for that excuse. So, like, I don't ever want to see Marty Scurll again. Period. Like, that dude's reputation is shot. Same with Michael Elgin. Even if what they did isn't as severe as, like, Vince McMahon, I don't give a shit. I'm very much a guy that if you do something like that, nah. Because, like, how can I trust that you're not still that guy? Because that's predatory behavior, folks. So, anyway, Santino Marella, Jim Cornette's favorite wrestler, is bringing in Marty Scurll for an event at the Battle Arts Pro Don Koloff Arena in Mississauga, Toronto, Canada. Which, by if you're a Cleveland Guardians fan, that's where Josh Naylor is from, Mississauga. I only found that out today. I didn't realize Josh Naylor was Canadian. So that's coming August 13th, 2022. Let's see. Marty Scurll has worked sparingly since then, only working 10 matches total. Scurll has mostly worked in Puerto Rico and Germany and Mexico, and only worked one match in the United States. Scurll was also reportedly set to participate in a set of March or New Japan Strong tapings, but he was later pulled due to fan backlash. So he's coming in. I don't think Santino Marella is going to pull him, even if he gets backlash work, because Santino's kind of one of those dudes that he's like, I make my product for the fans, but also fuck the fans. So I very much see Marty Scurll coming in. And like, I don't know, there's a part of me that feels like if these guys had actually done their time, and I don't mean just not being in wrestling for a couple of years, I mean like actually did some real time, like straight up mea culpa, like, yeah, I sexually assaulted her, I'm sorry, and like reported themselves to the police and spent a year in prison, I might be okay with them trying to rehab their reputations. I might be okay with them trying to come out and prove that they're not still that guy. But when you basically skirt away and the only thing you lost was your pro wrestling identity, I feel like that's not enough. Not for sexually assaulting a 16-year-old. I don't know what the age of consent is in 16. Is in England. It may be 16. It may be 18. I don't know. But like, I also kind of think like, as a human being, you need to have some morality. And I feel like Marty Scurll doesn't have any goddamn morality. But he was drunk. I don't care. Don't drink then. You're kind of missing the point. If you do bad things when you're drunk, don't get drunk. If you have to get drunk to have fun, then you're an alcoholic. You should stop drinking. I can make every conversation about drinking back to don't drink. And Marty Scurll just, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to see Battle Arts. I don't want to see Marty Scurll. I don't want to see him in any promotion that I watch. So, fuck him. I'd much rather see the next generation of guys than the last generation of guys at this point. So, I ain't fucking sitting here repping for Mike Quackenbush or Icarus. And I love Shikara. And guys like Marty Scurll, they're, nah. Marcus, are you going to, welcome back Marty Scurll with open arms if he ever to come back to NXT or WWE or Impact or whatever?
It's hard to say, man. You look at specifically with all the whole speaking out moving over, I'll look at two guys in terms of trajectory. Like, he was white hot when this was going down.
He
like,
was fucking huge.
Like, he was, basically got handed the keys to the kingdom when it came to Ring of Honor. And the guy was good. That whole villain gimmick was just, it was ace. But potentially turned out to be one in real life, essentially. And then I look at him, and then I look at a guy like Dream, Velveteen.
Mm-hmm.
And just two careers completely derailed when they was seeming the talk of the town. I haven't seen Scurll for a very long time, and I can't really say that I'm in any rush to potentially see him back again. So many new names that flood in and coming in every day, and people I'm discovering or have discovered in other promotions that I'm liking now, and with everything just so full on the wrestling palette, which is good. Like I said, while I do slightly miss seeing the gimmick of it all, the villain gimmick of it all, it's hard to disassociate. Like, I used to love watching Ospreay, but I can't, I didn't watch that match he had on Forbidden Door for him. I watched it for Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just find out these people are, and maybe that's just us. We can't disassociate. Like, when we find out stuff like this, it taints them as performers.
Mm-hmm.
And to add the same through that, and other people, they can separate it. And maybe that's fine. That's on y'all. But for us, for me, I don't want to see it. I definitely certainly don't want to see anything involved with this switching narrative thing. Don't ever have to see EC3 again. Want the best for a guy like Cross and his wife, but don't need to really see him either.
No.
anybody else associated with this brand, sadly enough. And EC3 might as well. EC3 is an impact memory for me at this point, 100%. So
I very much kind of subscribe to the theory that, when you do something truly wrong, fire is the only thing that will cleanse you. And I don't mean literal fire, but if you put the effort in to actually change your behavior, I will give you another chance. I am not heartless. But when you see guys like Elgin and Scurll who don't go out of their way to kind of like, this is what I'm doing to change my behavior, I feel like then I can't really get back on your bandwagon. And I feel like there's like a grand difference. Like, do you remember when Adam Blampied was canceled because he once asked a woman 100 miles away who was semi-drunk for a nude? Like, we don't have the same level anymore of awareness. Like, we've somehow overcorrected. Because there are dudes who are doing 10 times worse things than Adam Blampied did, and Blampied fucking lost 2 years of his life for asking for a nude when he has a girlfriend. Now, I don't like that he did it. But also, that's not illegal. But now we have guys like Elgin and Scurll who were accused of illegality, and they're getting booked. And I don't know, man. Like, you can recover from that. Like, Blampied, I don't think needed to do any of this, but he's like, I went to counseling. I addressed my sex addiction. I did all this stuff. And, like, Wrestle Talk is like, yeah, we want you. Come on in. And I feel like Elgin and Scurll, like, especially Elgin, he'll never fucking do that because that dude is just a fucking toxic mess. But, like, Scurll hasn't talked about anything he's been doing. I don't know what kind of therapy or alcohol-related treatments he's gone through. And that's a major important role in recovery and in earning back your... Like, Mike Tyson, man, sat there and bore his soul for a decade about the abuse he suffered, the abuse he doled out, the things he did that were wrong, the things that were done to him that were wrong. And he just vetted his entire soul. So, yeah, I'm able to sit here and be like, yeah, I can forgive Mike Tyson for what he did, even though what he did was pretty fucking heinous, because he took the steps. He got medicated. He went to therapy. He did time. Missing a year and a half of your career ain't the same thing as doing a hard time, buddy. Sorry, Marty. Until Party Marty takes some time in the slammer or donates his entire next 2 or 3 years to RAIN, which is the abuse organization that helps people with, I think it's rape, abuse, incest, and something else. Until like he makes massive donations and massive strides to actually make right what he brought asunder, I don't give a fuck. You can get forgiveness, but you need to actually, you have to go through hell to get it. And I put myself through hell a few times to get that forgiveness. So like I will not hold anyone to do something differently than I haven't done. Now, granted, I haven't never done anything close to what these guys have done, but like still. If I broke a window, man, like as a kid, if I broke a window, oh my God, no one could yell at me more than I was yelling at myself. Like, I'd repair the window, I would replace the window, I would sweep up all the damage, I would bring them fucking dinner for the next goddamn month. Like I made sure that people knew that I was apologetic for my mistake, but it was a mistake. These guys, committed actions for sure. It's like, it's like, I don't know, man.
That speaks to the person, y'all. With Tyson, it's such a certain tier, and obviously we're not, doing this whole champion thing because we again continuing now that what he did was wrong. But Tyson has had such a public and been so very transparent about his journey, has been filled with so many demons to the point where it almost comes off at times that he's scared of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because he know where he's been and what he's done and what he's still capable of, which is why you see videos of people like, who is making the uninformed decision to F with Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
Even at his old age, like the man can still accidentally kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I said, it's been such a open, like you watch any Jamie Foxx interview and anytime you get asked about Mike Tyson, like I think he's been wanting to play him, trying to play him in a movie for the longest. And then all of a sudden, recently they dropped a trailer for a movie with a completely different guy playing him, and preparing to do a good job. But Jamie was like, one day he hit him up and he was like, Mike, how you doing? He was like I'm at peace. He was like, why? He's like, I ain't got no money. Can't nobody take nothing from me anymore. Can't nobody abuse and use me.
Mm-hmm.
That whole deal. So you stack that on top of everything else that came along with, the demons that he had coming into boxing, let alone the ones that that come along with fame, and then he taking us on that journey. Like we've been with him through all these steps, and it still feels like he's going through it. For a lot of these guys, these performers, like you said, they go away for a little bit, try to let the fire die down, or they'll try to get ahead of it, which I think we talked about the guy with the stash. Why am I blanking on his dummy's name? The sleazy guy.
Oh, Joey
Uh,
Ryan.
yeah, Joey Ryan tried to get ahead of it and just comes off sounding like a all of a sudden switches to religion to calm the fire and stuff like that, and end up digging themselves
Mm.
a deeper hole than just going away, shutting up for a little bit. Um, the reason why I brought the Tyson thing, because like you said, we don't know what he's necessarily done in his absence, but a lot of it is because we don't know that we can't take it at take him at face value when we see him again,
Basically,
because
yeah.
it does potentially come off like, no, you just kind of sit at home and kind of let other people, catch some fire, and then let people stay away long enough that people forget about you. So when they see you again, because of the attention span, is that next to nothing. So, but again, maybe hopefully he has done some stuff. Like I said, we may never know. But even still, no, absolutely no. So you could pay me money to watch the negative thing, and I'll give it back to you. I don't know. Good.
Speaking of no, I'm good. Marco stunt. Like this dude had no talent. Like this is one of those Cody Rhodes. I hire my friends. I believe in nepotism, guys. So he didn't re-sign with AEW, and I think all three of his fans were broken up about it. I think one of them is his brother. In an interview with Steve Fall of NBC Sports Boston, when asked why he felt that AEW didn't renew his deal, the former Jurassic Express star explained that at the end of his run with the company, he wasn't bringing anything new to the table or helping build the audience. I mean, I wasn't bringing anything new to the table at the moment, said Stunt. I wasn't adding anything to it. I wasn't bringing in any audience or anything. That's not to say I didn't have a fan base or anything. I had my fan base. But as in terms of making more for them, I wasn't doing that. But I will say that I don't believe that I was put in a position to be able to do that as well. Fair. But also, what do you have to offer? Going on to say, let's see. Stunt noted that he had a good relationship with Tony Khan, but communication broke down between the two sides later on the stage of his time in AEW. He described how he would contact the company and not hear back. Once he learned that his contract wouldn't be renewed, he reached out to Tony Khan to thank him, and he heard back that time. Quote, that is actually where the communication kind of lacked a lot, is when time started running out. I mean to say that this is, as I was saying, we were close, but there were a time when we weren't either. And then from there, we would see each other at work and be like, hey, but I never really had any communication at the end. So I didn't know if it was getting let go, renewed, or anything. I sent out an email and didn't get a response. I texted them and didn't get a response. But for about a month before it happened, I did get a call. I got told I got told not by him, but I did get a phone call that I wasn't going to be renewed. And then I did text him. I was like, hey man, I just want to thank you for all the opportunities because it was a fantastic opportunity. I'm 25 years old, and I was with the company for 3 years, and I had a blast. I lived my dream. So I wanted to thank him for that. And he did text me back. And like, hey man, thank you for everything. I'm sorry we couldn't have a spot for you moving forward. And I did tell him, I was like, maybe we'll work together one day in the future. And he did say something to the effect, he was like, there's a possibility of that. That doesn't mean all that is going to happen, not holding on to that. But if it does, it does. If it doesn't, I'm good. So, there you go. Marco Stunt. Any upsetness about him being let go? And any longing to see him in the AEW ring? The IE double?
No. And it's funny because I hadn't seen or heard him or heard his name in feel like well, to say months, maybe a year and some change, and I didn't even notice he wasn't there. And that's not a shot at his size, but
We
that
can't make those jokes anyway.
yeah
Who are
exactly
we?
at all exactly. But that does speak to the relevance, and I commend him for at least having the uh, The self-awareness to know, like, look, man, I played a role, but it wasn't enough to move any type of needles. And, in a lot of ways, he had to know he was, even with Jurassic Express, he was as much a prop as any weapon under the ring, ultimately. He was just flesh.
I mean,
Um, and
a
you
flesh
talked about,
prop.
exactly. You talked about it, that ridiculous um back and forth they was doing with him and Penta and the Lucha Bros and that whole match and of it all. Like, it's kind of apropos that his last name is Stunt because that's essentially what he is. Um, he's like a little like a little stunt performer, but ultimately, um, it's only so much you can do. And if they're gonna break down Jurassic Express eventually, he was gonna be like who keeps the dog? Yeah, that who keeps the Shih Tzu? You know what I'm saying? Like that type of deal that don't benefit. And they already got smaller guys on the show that, guys like Orange Cassidy and guys like Darby Allin who are smaller guys but have big presence about themselves and characters and the fans are far more behind them. It'll be hard for somebody like Stunt to get in where he fit in a lot of ways without coming off like a joke. Like in a couple years from now, um John Huber's kid will be bigger than him.
Might already be.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's just one of them things where it sucks, but that's kind of and they already have enough problems trying to figure out to do with a lot of the guys on that show. Like if they struggling to do something with Brian Cage, he ain't got a chance in hell.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it also kind of sucks that he wasn't getting as consistent, I think, as back and forth communication as he should. And to be fair, Khan has a lot of responsibilities on himself, probably more than he should. Um, but you do want to make yourself available to guys like that, particularly who aren't problematic. It's not like he was that little and had an MJF type of attitude about himself. That would have
Right.
been trash.
Right. By
But
all accounts, Stunt seems to be a pretty decent business person.
yeah, but hopefully he finds a spot somewhere, man. Like the great thing, like you look at the zeitgeist of wrestling right now. There's literally something for everybody. You got from the lame duckness of WWE at this point, even with all their, funds of money. And then you got something on the complete other end, like GCW. Everything in between is something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he somewhere fits. Like he's another name I think about when I think about just completely missing something like Lucha Underground. Because that'll be a place where somebody like him could do something. They could have did a team with him and Masquerita Sagrada.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Yeah. And it'll work even in the confines of Lucha Underground because it's all like this one big epic fantasy anyway. But yeah, I don't really have no desire to see him. But like I said, I appreciate the self awareness to know that sometimes, man, he had a good run. You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think GCW is going to use him a lot, and they got a pretty decent roster that AEW has kind of helped facilitate. Uh, Janela, um, Nick Gage,
Yeah.
Stunt. Like these aren't names that I would go out and watch, but these are pretty big names, and if you're a GCW fan, you should be thankful you get. Speaking of thankful, I, I, I guess I'm thankful that wrestling can still surprise me, Marcus. Came out last week that Buff Bagwell was not running his own Twitter account, which I didn't really have a shocking surprise reaction to. But what did surprise me is that Buff Bagwell had no idea what his Twitter account was saying. Because, I don't think Sting runs his own Twitter or Facebook account. But I firmly believe that he tells whoever, this is what I want you to say. So Buff is trying to make... I'm going to read the rest of his own article, just to kind of bring people up to date. Buff Bagwell is trying to make things right and addressed a number of topics that had him trending for the wrong reason. God, that's a great intro. Who wrote this? Bill Pritchard, of course he did, because he's fucking good. Buff Bagwell has seen a huge surge in popularity in recent months, and it was largely due to his positive and uplifting activity on Twitter. Buff embraced the LGBTQ community and looked to make amends with people from the past, but as it turns out, it wasn't Buff running the account. Earlier this week, it was revealed that not only was Buff not running his own account, but several fans did not receive merchandise they paid for. A man known as Michael Long was working with Buff on his brand, and now Buff is trying to set the record straight about Long's involvement in his social media activity, the missing merchandise, and more. Buff Bagwell addressed the recent allegations in a new video on his YouTube channel and said that he learned a lot about himself in the past few months, and he also had a lot to apologize for. As you know, the last 3 or 4 months, this is Buff Bagwell quote, as you know, the last 3 or 4 months I've been trending over a lot of great things and having a lot of fun doing it. The last few weeks, it seems like I've been trending over some things that are not so great. And so today I wanted to come out and clear things up and apologize about several things. I just wanted to come face to face with everybody and do that. I really, really want to apologize about several things. Buff spoke about the work with Diamond Dallas Page on the documentary called Change or Die. He said that the reception he got from the people that helped drive him forward, but also showed him that he has a lot of work to do with himself, and he's going to stick it out. Buff then addressed the allegations that his fans did not receive the merchandise they paid for. Buff says that Michael Long, who was helping him with online sales, dropped the ball, and he left a lot of fans empty-handed. I did not receive or see any of that money. And I just want to get that cleared up so that everybody know that I'm going to get to the bottom of it, and I apologize. Over the last few days, it's come across that Michael also has a criminal record that I did not condone at all. It's a situation he's got to deal with on his own, but at the same time, I just want everybody to know that it's something that I do not condone whatsoever. I want everybody to know that I did not know this when I hired him, that this is a mistake that I will not make in the future. Michael's got his own problems going on now, and that's just not Michael. Buff then went on to address the allegation that he was not running his own social media account. Buff said that he had a team that helped him, and they stepped in for him at times, but it was very much his voice and thoughts being shared. Bagwell did not directly address Long's criminal record, but it has since been learned that Long was was a stage name for Javon Michael Miller, a convicted sex offender in Ohio. According to records on the Ohio Sex Registry Offender Registry, Miller was convicted in 2019 of soliciting a minor under the age of 13 in sexual activities. Good golly, that was new. I didn't know that part. I knew about the rest of it. I didn't know about that part, Marcus. Fucking hell. You know my old football coach is on that registry? That's a trip.
Yeah, I'm just glad you got out when you did.
Yeah. He got busted for watching porn in school. He wasn't at the same school that I was at the time. He had changed schools, but yeah, that was
coming off of that revelation, and then going into your
6 degrees of separation right now, Marcus.
No, it immediately has me thinking back to that first season, the Titans with the with Hawk and Dove storyline.
Oh yeah,
brother.
Yeah,
you know, man.
Yeah, that's a thing, man. That's a thing. So Buff wants us to know that he is still his stuff, and that he does support all these things that he's been saying. I guess only time will tell. Do you buy that this was always Marcus Bagwell's intentions, that his thoughts were being adequately shared, or do you think that maybe Buff got a surge of popularity through a sycophant or someone pushing his own beliefs on the Bagwell brand? Do we believe Bagwell that this is his truth, or do we not believe Bagwell?
It's hard to know, man. It's because you really just never know. And it's funny when we're coming off a conversation about a company that can control your narrative, because it would have helped Bagwell in this situation if he would have had more of a stern intent to control his when it came to social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the danger that, like, we've seen a celebrity blunder of said too much, spoke too soon, completely spoke out of turn, probably spoke when I shouldn't have spoken at all. I was hacked. Space Ghost coast to coast. I was hacked. Don't laser me. Like that whole deal. I am
the lone locust of the apocalypse.
It's that weird thing, man. Like, it almost comes off worse a lot of times when, certain people be like, I don't run my own account. I'm like, why not? You're not even that big a deal. Like, it tends to be like, know what I'm saying? Like you what is up with it? Like you that just associated because it almost like I could almost have a little bit more respect for the people who clearly stick their foot up their mouth and their ass and be like I was hacked, as opposed to somebody be like, well, I mean, like I don't even run my account. It wasn't me. I'm like, well, so you're double stupid then, because you were letting somebody legitimately control you on that, and in certain instances, you almost kind of let slip out that not only did you let people just kind of your paraphrase voice, but you didn't even check. You didn't care to check. So that makes it, that makes it worse. And then you find out all this stuff about the person, aside from them being, a sycophant, potential sycophant, Twitter. You didn't even do a background check to somebody that you was gonna have speaking for you. Come on, man. Come on, you set yourself up for every L that came in this situation almost.
I still want Buff to be the stuff, right? Like, I don't want him to be this dude that everyone now just turns on. But he's got to prove that he is who he says he is. And it's not the content of what he's saying. It's not that he's on this side or that side or supports this or whatever. It's the consistency. If you are who you are, I will respect you even if I don't like you. Because there's a certain degree of, for lack of better words, respect when I see someone that I don't agree with standing by their beliefs firmly without any trepidation. Even if I don't like the guy. Even if I disagree with him. It's that, like, all right, you ever see, did you ever watch The Outsiders in school, that movie with Daniel LaRusso?
No.
Basically, it's a movie with Daniel LaRusso, I can't remember his real name, and a bunch of, like, other names that you would, like Tom Cruise was in it, Emilio Estevez, like, and it was, like, in 1983, like, they were all babies. But it was like Daniel Russo and Patrick Swayze were like the big names in it. But they were like a bunch of greasers, right? Like the old school Italian greasers. And they were dealing with these I forget what they call it, froshes, which are like the preppy kids. And they come to the Rumble at the end of the movie. And Patrick Swayze and the big guy from the preppy side square off. And he's like, I got you. And the guy's just smiling going, I got you. Because they're about to beat the shit out of each other. And that's kind of how I feel when I see someone kind of dig their heels in with something I don't agree with, but stand by it adamantly. There's a sense of like, all right, I guess it's you. You and me. So I hope Bagwell is still that guy. Because if he's not, then he has no future in this industry. Because everyone's going to think he's a liar. And it's one thing to be like a bad dude. It's another person. It's another thing to be a liar. Because, like, I don't disbelieve anything Chris Jericho says. I know he believes all this nonsense. And I respect him for it. I don't like him. I respect him.
Yeah. Yeah, at times it almost comes out like he really doesn't care to be smart enough to have somebody tweet
Right.
or speak for him. But it's so weird to know somebody like when some of these celebs, because they're kind of out of the loop, if you will, in terms of generationally when it comes to social media stuff. You almost wish that they would take the time to have somebody sit them down and explain the importance of these platforms and if you do something and why you do something maybe at certain times. Because a lot of people have mastered all the social media specifically for financial benefit. And it's interesting that you brought up Sting, because I don't like this will never happen to Sting.
No.
Because whoever's doing it, like he obviously he's not somebody that tweets. But if something does come in his Twitter account, somebody else doing it, it's you like maybe retweeting something about a match, or something about a public appearance, like the correct stuff. And if he does do something, it's short, heartfelt, sweet, to the point, and he's out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Bagwell, the reason why it's so imperative and so dangerous to have somebody else doing it for you is because so many people take social media so serious nowadays. Like they live whole other lives.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with characters and different personas on social media, and so many people get so much of their daily intake of social media, they take the littlest thing so seriously. Like they all the molehills on social media get turned into mountains because for this generation it's life.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, so when you have something like that happen, and specifically when it comes to wrestling, coming off this speaking out thing, a lot of people are just looking for the next villain anyway. You got to be careful, man. You know,
Yeah,
so
you
like
don't
you
want to
said,
get on that villain carousel.
yeah, specifically, and definitely talking about because I think we talked about it before about making certain instances comments about the the queer community, which you got to be careful about anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just it tends to be a minefield, and when you have somebody come out there that's thinking that they can think for you, it gets real messed up because we've seen a lot of people like we've seen what Seth Rollins venting stupidly on social media. Somebody should have took his phone and slammed it up against the wall. And then you got the opposite of that, where whoever was running the Spike account went out like a G.
Ah, that
But they was,
that man or woman deserves all the roses.
they kind of just kind of blended the two. And was like, we're closing down. We're going out of business. I'm gonna go out, seemingly walking that line. But a lot of people don't necessarily get that luxury, like, cause it was so weird. Like you didn't care what was going on. It was just like whoever's is they just entertaining it right now. Whoever's running this account. So yeah, you hope, and I wish for the best for Buff, but you got to do some cleaning up to do, man, with whoever that guy was for real. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Absolutely. And like I believe him when he says that he didn't do a background check on the guy. Like, I believe that. Like
Yeah.
how many people actually do? Honestly. I worked for a private security firm in my early 20s, and I had to go through all sorts of background checks. But I was also I was, what was it, licensed via Homeland Security or something like that. So, like, it's kind of a different level. Like, I had to be properly vetted for my career, and Buff Bagwell didn't need to properly vet a social media guy because if all things go according to plan, you will never know that he exists publicly. It's like I get it, but also Buff, got to keep this goodwill going. You cannot fall on this one. Like this is your make or break it time. Like Kurt Angle can get away with I was hacked. I don't think you can, bro. All right, in a little bit of good news, no segue here. Major League Wrestling's agreement with beIN Sports has gotten even bigger as MLW Fusion will now air on beIN Sports Extra. The following is a press release from, we don't need to read the press release. So MLW is just, I got a fucking 20-year history with Impact. But MLW is definitely, I think, like, seated nicely as a co-brand in my heart. I watch them as much as I watch Impact, and I love it. Them being on YouTube may not be the most financially beneficial, but it sure is easy to get to. And them being on beIN, and I think they're on something else. Fubo, I think. I think they're on Fubo. They're finding avenues to make money, and like they got a fucking roster, man. Taya Valkyrie's on there. She's doing the open contract with them in Impact. You got Hammerstone. You got Richard Holiday, Alicia Toot. I'll still Alicia Toot's someone I like, but I don't. She's great in her role, but I'm still pissed at her for being a cupcake interviewer, and like that pissed me off because like with the whole Elgin thing, she interviewed him like right when it was all going down, and she didn't do shit to ask him anything serious. It's like that pissed me off because clearly she's not really an interviewer or a journalist. She's just trying to grow her brand. Fine. But don't call yourself an interviewer or like whatever her dumb fucking moniker was. No. But yeah, she's great as Richard Holiday's bitchy girlfriend, and I love that. Like they got a great roster. Davey Richards. I'm not a big Killer Cross guy, but he's there. Scarlett Bordeaux. I think she has the same dumb, stupid opinions he does, but she's very pretty to look at, so I can make do with that. Depending on what she says, I can make do with it. But like they got a great roster, and it's only getting better. So like this for me as a fan of MLW, this is great. I'm a big supporter of them at the moment. So I'm all for them making more money. Marcus, watch more MLW. There's no question. Just a statement of fact.
Yep. Great.
Last up, we gotta talk about Natty. Nasty Natty. Nasty Natty Neidhart. So apparently she did a match with Liv Morgan. I think it was Sunday, or maybe it was at Saturday night's main event, which is like their new weekly Saturday night house show thing. And it was a title match, and Liv Morgan hit like a really funky looking bulldog, I think is what it was. and pinned Natty, and then afterwards Natty she shoved her finger in Liv's face and said something, and then rolled out of the ring. Completely no-sold the whole thing. And when I saw that, like, part of me was like, okay, but what happened? Not that what Natty did was all right, but what happened? And then Natty tweeted out something like, I was saying, thank you or something like that to her. And it's like, oh, so now we're just going full cunt mode on this one. Okay. Because again, I am not an inflappable human being. If you fuck up and apologize, I'm good. We all make mistakes. But like, now she's doubling down? I don't know. That's kind of fucked up. Marcus, what do you take of this Natty situation?
Yeah, I mean, that has always been, perception-wise, has always, come off as one of the, the better individuals in the company. Always done everything that's been asked of her. Obviously, she, takes a lot of pride in being a heart, you know, uh, beloved in the women's division as a standard in that regard. Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody, got their breaking points and have bad days, but it just, we've talked about some of the most disrespectful things you can do as a performer. And it's funny because she, the whole thing came out, that she no sold Liz moves, and it got her compared to Aries, who had the infamous Bound for Glory no sell that he did on John Morrison. And then not only is that not like the person you want to get compared to, but as a heart, as somebody who's been in the industry as long as she has, that is like very distasteful to do to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it just, for somebody, like I said, who's a respected ring veteran such as she, to not only do that, but to do that against somebody like Liv, who has really had um, a great journey in terms of being touted as essentially the Janetti of a threesome, of a trio, I should say, better phrasing, to being somebody that's truly grown and become a real singles competitor in her own right, and is gone to the championship even ahead of somebody like a Ruby Riott.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of do that in that position to somebody who even at her current champion status that's still growing and could very much continue to benefit as a champion from being in the ring consistently with somebody that like a for her to almost pull a Orton like he did um, all them years with Kofi, except do that in the finish, it just comes off very distasteful, man, and it doesn't help that shiny veneer that she's had all these years.
Yeah, and I feel like Natty might be one of those people that has always been kind of bolstered by the wanna like itis of it all. And I feel like maybe now the cracks are starting to show because I don't know, man. Like this was a bad look for her, and it's not like she's like the worst off person in the company. Like you look at someone like Ronda Rousey, like she was a Sandy Hook denier, man. So like Natty's got some time before she gets to that level, but also I never thought Natty would even be close to this level. But clearly something is going on with her at this point in juncture that is affecting her behavior. And I don't know if it's emotional, I don't know if it's career, but at the end of the day, like her doubling down and then deleting the tweet, like if you must know I said thank you and then you delete it, like no, clearly you're lying, or else why would you delete the tweet? It's just one of those things. Like it makes me wonder if there are things about Natty that we just don't know about, and like we don't know about these people. Like think about how long it took for the news about, because we talked about them off air. Like think about how long it took for the news about Bill Cosby to become out, because I didn't, until Hannibal Buress did that entire set on him, I didn't know shit about Bill Cosby. I always thought he was America's dad. And then like Hannibal Buress like, no, he's fucked up. And I'm like, ooh, didn't know that.
Which is even more interesting because when a lot of this stuff came out, it was just new to us.
Mm-hmm.
The industries that they were in, it was not new. The Weinsteins, the Cosby, certainly Kells. Like it wasn't new to the industry zeitgeist of it all that they were in. It just you know and that kind of goes to show you how messed up show business is, that level of toxicity and outright criminality were just the norm
Mm-hmm.
for so many years. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like we say this all the time, talk about people getting so overly attached to these characters because the people behind them have completely different situations. Like these people go home and take off this ring attire and all this, these long hours of makeup for the women and such, and they have lives. And somebody also brought this up on Twitter. They were like, all these years she's been, essentially toiled with, and they feel like it's just coming to the surface and boiling over, and frustration. Like I said, everybody have a bad night or what have you, but there were other ways to handle that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like mishandling somebody's person, like taking advantage of them physically, is obviously the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like you saying, like you brought up with situation we talked about, like the whole no show type of deal when you've made a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Willfully, not like if it's out of your hands, like a flight got delayed or you got into an accident or something. But then you also got something like that, like you just threw away, like you just shot on their finisher and potentially, like, what if that's a 30-minute match and then you do that? Like we already know that the gig is up.
Mm-hmm.
The curtain is pulled so far back that the fans are damn near in the gorilla position at this point. To do something like that, it's like a middle finger to the whole concept
Mm-hmm.
of it all, you know?
Yeah, and like once you start disrespecting the intelligence of the fan or disrespecting the essence of what you're doing, why the fuck are you doing it? Like with this whole WSC thing, and god damn it, that was the one thing I thought about putting on the show, and I completely forgot about doing it. Damn it. We'll talk about it next week because I'm sure there's still more stories about it. But with this WSE thing, this group that the Occam, Tokar and Razor were putting together, one of the things that were, you know, kind of a big deal about it was this whole idea of Alistair Overeem being in the main event. And that would have been cool. I'm a big MMA fan. I'm a big Overeem fan. Overeem was great. But also, Overeem was very judgmental and dismissive of pro wrestling. And now here you are putting him in the main event of a show? I don't know. That seems kind of fucked up to me. Like, I don't think he shouldn't have the right to try to transition into wrestling, but also, like, you got to kind of earn it, dog. And I don't feel like he earned it. So respecting the industry is a big deal. Like if you want to be a part of it, you got to respect it. You don't need to fall in line with all all the nonsense that people do, like with the wrestler's court or the carrying of the bags or whatever. But respecting the general concept of it, like you're telling an emotional and physical story, and if you don't commit to it, why the fuck are you doing it? And I feel like when Natty did this, it's kind of a middle finger to everyone in the industry at the moment. And it's not like you can't come back from it, but you got to do something more than just kind of going, oh, yeah, I was telling her, thank you. No one believes that. No one fucking believes that. Like, don't insult the industry and then insult us in return. Like, what are you doing, Natty?
We're all in on a joke, Natty. You didn't have to take away the laugh.
Right? Like she's trying to put the fucking laugh track over the bad joke, and it's like, nah, lady. Mm-mm. No, you Amy Schumer'd this thing. Come on. Just fucking own it and let's move on. But now it's like I'm sitting here wondering, you had a bad day. And now you had a bad tweet. And then you deleted the tweet. And now you haven't commented on it since. And I have to wonder how much of your facade is bullshit. And let's be honest, one of the things that I always wonder is when someone gets released, is it actually because they're just a shitty person? Sometimes it turns out that, yeah, that's exactly why they got released. So I don't know if this is a situation where Natty is kind of a person who kind of has had some issues that have been kind of buried by the company. And now we're starting to see cracks of who she really is. Maybe the facade is off. Maybe Natty being a disrespectful person is who she is. We'll find out. Because once the facade comes off, it doesn't go back on. No one thinks Chris Brown is a good dude. No one thinks Vince McMahon is a good dude. The facade's gone. So we'll find out in time. Mark, is there anything else?
Oh, that's it for me.
Well, we got through the show. No internet drops. No issues with anything else. With that being said, let's talk about the ending. You can find us on our socials at Chad Nerdcorp, CHED, NERD, CORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, CHEDS, PHOTOHUT. Marcus can be found on his Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParaDoxKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on this other podcast, The True Britney Show, TruePennyShow. You guys are doing some big shows this week, so check them out. Yeah, they do good content, unlike what I do. It's mostly just gibbering and jabbering and nonsense for 2 hours. It's a long-ass show, too. Fucking, how long have we been on? Hour and a half. Fuck. It's like that Baker. You ever see that Baker Mayfield video? It's like 2 seconds long, and he's just sitting in a Browns training facility, and he's like in a sweatshirt, and he doesn't say anything for 3 seconds, and then he just goes, "Fuck." I've tried to find the actual video that's from, to know the context that he's watching, but just the silence for like 3 seconds, and then I'm going, "Fuck." It just fucking makes me laugh. So yeah, they do good content. Let's see. RealNerdCorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. Twitter's NERDCORP, and I think that's everything. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. We will be back next Monday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I feel like there was more to my outro and I forgot about it. Remember to watch more wrestling. We'll be back next Monday for more content, and Marcus and I will figure out the name of this Baywatch podcast we're gonna do, because it's gonna be awesome and I'm fucking hyped for it. Because it's like melodrama storylines that you would see in soap operas, but injected with steroids and silicone.
Please put that in the description.
I'm gonna write it down. Let's see. Notepad. It's got the melodrama of a soap opera, but injected with steroids and silicone. Oh, we're gonna have a show. Oh, it's going. The constant weekly debates about Yasmin Bleeth or Pam Anderson is just gonna break my brain. It's gonna break my brain, Marcus. So for Marcus and I'm Chad Portal, thanks for tuning in, thanks for checking us, thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.